And the final activity that you're going to do today is the Lord of the Flies survival activity. At the end of this activity, you will have an assignment that needs to be turned in before you leave class, so make sure you kind of stay on track. So you're going to get into groups of 3 or 4. Just make sure that everybody feels included and is in a group. You have 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how much class time is left to complete the activity. We had about 20 minutes on B-Day. Each group gets the survival instructions, so give everybody a copy of the instructions and the list of people that they have to choose from, and then read the directions out loud together. Then give each group one recording chart, the chart that says who you want to be on the raft and why, and who will stay with the plane and why. So this will need to have all the group members on it, and it'll get turned into the basket also, but that's not the individual assignment. Then you're going to go ahead and do the activity. You'll take about 20 minutes. Once you're done, 15 or 20 minutes, once you get done, discuss who you put on the raft, who you didn't, why you chose them. Then move on to these next questions. You'll probably want to stop the video. I'm going to go ahead and talk about them a little bit, but before I talk about them, why don't you stop the video and you talk about these 4 questions. So what was your ultimate purpose? When you were deciding who was going to go on the raft, were you thinking about who was going to be able to affect the future, who might be able to make the most money, who might be able to live a quality life, or who did you just think had the best chance of making it to land? And number 2, on what did you base your decisions? Was it the quality of the people's character, if they were good or bad people, if they had special skills, or if they could be helpful to others? And also just talk about a little bit, like if you decided somebody had skill, when you were deciding between the people, like did you consider, in addition to their skill, whether they were more worthy than other people? And then if the people you saved were bad people, do you think, so let's just say they all had a lot of skill, but maybe they weren't really good people, just theoretically, do you think they would have made it to land at all? And number 4, if you had to choose people who would repopulate the world after nuclear holocaust, for example, would you choose people with skills or people who were good? So stop the video for a second and talk about these questions. So I assume you've had some time to talk about the questions. Obviously, for most of the groups, their ultimate purpose was to choose people who had the best chance of making it to land. I did have one group on B-Day who just chose the family. They sent the entire family just because they didn't want to split up the family. So obviously there are other reasons. Some of them, even though they were choosing people who could swim, or they were choosing people who knew how to sail, and if you have the ability to sail, you generally are good at following the stars and navigation. A pilot is normally trained in navigation, so those would have been helpful people. Good athletic people would have been helpful people to have. Really intelligent people, maybe you wanted to choose the medical personnel because they were trained in medicine. The one guy was trained in hypothermia. So there's lots of reasons why you might have chosen those people. I heard some people discussing the fact that, not the pilot because he drinks, or not the minister because he's too selfish, or whatever you might have been doing. Sometimes it comes down to making a choice, who is the worst of 2 evils. Number 3, if all the people you saved were bad, would they have made it to land at all? We talked about this, and some of the people thought that perhaps if they were all bad, they would have not had the communication skills or thought enough of each other to even help them make it to land, even though they were the chosen few that got into the raft. It's hard to know, but you might want to think about the combination of people you put in there. Do you think they actually would just get along well enough to make it back to land? Or would they have to use each other in order to make it back to land? And then the last one is really the scenario that our boys on the island are facing. There's a nuclear holocaust that has happened. Their parents have evacuated them from London in order to avoid being blown up by a nuclear bomb. When they get there, they're doing much of the same process that you're doing. They're deciding who are the good people and who have skills, who's going to be a leader, who's going to be a follower, who do we want to protect, and who do we need to have for the future. And that's kind of what you're going to be doing when you think about what is happening to the boys that are on the island. Do we need to have Piggy? I mean, he is the smartest kid on the island. What skills does Ralph have that Jack doesn't have, or vice versa? So you are going to wrap up this activity, on the back of the piece of paper that has all of the survivors on it, the plane crash survivors, there should be enough room at the bottom of that page where you can make this outline, just like the outlines that we were using in the Practical Writer book when we were pulling the supporting details out of those paragraphs in Chapter 1, except instead of pulling the details out of a paragraph, you're going to put in your details. So on the topic sentence, put something about, this paragraph is going to be about who you would choose and why, or there are many reasons to want certain people to try to survive this tragedy. Put the names of the people you would select on the blue lines next to the SS's, and then the 2 or 3 reasons why you selected that person on the asterisks. So all you're going to do is make the outline. You're not going to actually write the paragraph. It should take you about 7 to 10 minutes to do that. Make sure your name, date, and period are on your paper, and put them into my basket before you leave class. And that should be the end of class.